Well, we are in Pune at the One Earth campus of Suzlon, where we are going to be talking to the management about the changes in the wind power sector and what is the quantum of growth that can come in and the internals of the company that can support such meteoric growth if it were to come about. Stay tuned with me, you don't want to miss this. We are at the Suzlon One Earth campus in Pune, where we are going to be in conversation with Mr. JP Chalasani to try and understand what's happening to the industry predominantly, because the wind sector seems to have a tailwind, the pun is intended, of its own. And what about Suzlon individually as well? Mr. Chalasani, great having you. Great being here. Thank you so much for having us. Just tell us a bit about this, because you were telling me, I mean, it's a beautiful campus. You were telling me it's truly a green campus. What's about this?
It was conceived that way. The whole idea is that because Mr. Tulsitanti believed in sustainability much before country started talking about sustainability. When he wanted to build this campus, he said that anyone comes here, we don't need to say we are in the business of clean energy or the green energy. They should feel that the moment they enter here, so we do this business. This whole building is designed, that entire complex. It was platinum rated and it's fully powered with renewable energy, and that's what you can see everywhere.
Okay.
So that we take pride in this building because we do a clean energy business, and then our buildings actually reflect that. So this, starting from our office, everything reflects the business what we are in. That's the whole idea.
Okay, interesting. So let's talk about the business that you are in, sir. It's been some seriously strong tailwind for the space. I mean, when I look at the presentations by the government or by companies as well in the space, right? The targets are very, very stiff. But you know, India has always been a country which will need power. What is so different about this cycle versus what's happened in the past?
Yeah. Before we come to the demand side of it, is that why this is different from the past is what is important to understand. When this whole sector started, renewable sector, with its wind or power, predominantly it was dependent upon accelerated depreciation. So therefore you had people like high net worth individuals and finance companies trying to get into that. Then we've changed that to generation-based incentive. So it was more on the policy props. You had a renewable power obligations to do that. That was because the tariffs were higher. Okay, cost of generation was higher. But over a period of time with advanced technology and various things, so now the tariffs have come down. Now today these tariffs are comparable with alternate power. It used to be called alternate power India. Now I'm saying fossil fuel as an alternate power. Okay, it's a completely changed the scenario. So it's comparable to that. Today, for example, take simple case is everybody talks about renewables concern is intermittency. Okay?
Sorry?
Intermittency.
Right.
Okay. Now most of the bids what are coming in is what is called the FDRE bids, firm and dispatchable renewable energy. These bids are coming in a manner that you are provided a load curve for every 15-minute block. Say this is how I want the power is. And you need to set up a power project to meet this demand of 15-minute block.
These demands are led by the...
Led by the off-taker.
Off-taker.
Let's say distribution company. Okay?
Right.
Today the fossil fuel actually does that. Okay? Because today the whole country has this 15-minute blocks, 96 blocks in a year, where you can give your availability, what the power supply makes that. In those bids are now become predominant in this sector. Okay? And the tariffs what you're getting is anywhere between around 5.5. In fact, now it has come down to sub 5 with the latest bid.
Okay.
If you compare that with the fossil fuel, because both are exactly identical, round the clock, meeting your 15-minute block power, both are equal. So effectively you reach a stage where that there is hardly any difference between fossil fuel and this from the point of tariff and from the point of intermittency.
Right.
So therefore you reach there. On top of it, it's clean. And more important factor is that in the fossil fuel, while you know the tariff today, you don't know how will it be in future because the fuel costs keep varying.
Sure.
Whereas in the renewable energy, you get what you see today for the entire 25-year period. Because there is no variability in terms of your fuel and everything.
Okay.
So therefore, this is, while it is a clean energy, it also gives you certainty of the tariff for 25 years, which you don't get in fossil fuel. And it meets the fossil fuel requirements. It meets intermittency. So I think these are the things which are making it now attractive. And as the mainstay, and as I said some time back, maybe by slip of the tongue, but that fossil fuel has become an alternative.
Yeah, that's an interesting line. Mr. Chalasani, just one question then. Do you reckon that the the predictability of supply or a setup of power capacity and the functioning are also as reliable now, and the capacities that companies like you have to supply and then for other companies to set up these wind farms, if you will, is the predictability of that also now very certain relative to the past?
Yeah, today if you talk about the supply capacity of the wind turbines, manufacturing capacity, in India we have sufficient capacity, 15 gigawatts plus. I don't think there's any issue with respect to that.
Okay.
What is important is not that some manufacturing capacity, but you need to get the turbines which actually meet the different wind profiles what we're going to see from time to time.
Could you explain that, please?
Yeah. For example, that the sites what we used to get earlier were better wind things. So they were, wind regime was different, wind speeds were different. So therefore, they were more efficient sites for a given turbine.
Got it.
Okay. So cost per kilowatt hour basis. But those sites would keep changing because you keep taking away those sites and the newer sites will come in. You need a different product so that your cost per kilowatt hour remains the same. Okay. So therefore, constantly you have to keep on designing your product, looking ahead, and then bring that product. That's what is challenging for any manufacturing company. That can only happen if you have your in-house R&D. Okay. We are proud to say, or we take the pride to say that we are the only Indian OEM which has an Indian in-house R&D. Okay. So therefore, what it does for us is that because we have an in-house R&D, plus we also operate today 15 gigawatts of turbines in this country. In fact, we are one of the largest operating company, even across the sector, including fossil. Okay. We come in the top 5, 15 gigawatts of operation. There are 10,000 turbines in these 15 gigawatts. Every single turbine is a wind mast for us. It keeps giving us the data what's happening with wind profiling in those sites. Plus, when you operate them, any issues come in, you know. So that goes as a feedback to our technology team. In addition to that, we also keep wind masts to keep collecting data at the new sites. Okay. So therefore, we know 3 to 4 years down the line, which are the sites going to be available for the greenfield wind projects. Whether do you have a product for that wind regime, so that the cost per kilowatt hour doesn't go up. Why I'm again and again repeating cost per kilowatt hour is, in India, we're extremely sensitive to that.
Cost, yeah, okay? That's true.
If the cost per kilowatt hour goes up, you may have a demand, but offtake won't happen. Okay. Projects won't happen. So therefore, that's what is important for us.
So let me try and ask you. So you are saying you are the one with the in-house R&D, others not. There are not too many players, as I understand.
Indian OEMs.
Indian OEMs who are, but even the global, I mean, they're not in a big way present currently in India, if I'm not operation-wise. So yes. My question to you is, if we have very tall plans, let's assume, I think, if I'm not wrong, even you mentioned this to that effect, that we probably have, what, 10 gigawatts of capacity set up each year, let's say from 26 to 30, right? Which is about 54 gigawatts, because 100 gigawatts by FY30. Does India have the capacity and the supply ease to be able to set up that capacity?
Let's first come to that 100 gigawatt. Is it reality or not?
Okay.
That's what was,
sure.
In fact, that was the first question which we missed out. One important aspect is that why we are talking about 100 gigawatts. It's not the figure which suddenly came up and said that we have a target of 100 gigawatts. CE has done an extremely detailed study for 2030 for entire 8760 hours hourly. What would be the demand in the country?
Okay.
And they also, in fact, done 5 electrical regions separately and integrated together.
Right.
Then they came up with the demand is going to be, peak demand is going, the installed capacity requirement is going to be 770 gigawatts.
Okay.
Okay, from the current about 470 gigawatts. But most important exercise what they've done is that if this is what is the demand, what is the least cost option to meet this demand? Because as I said sometime back, we are always sensitive towards the cost of power. Then they came up saying that, okay, the most optimal mix of generation to meet this demand is 100 gigawatts of wind is required, 300 gigawatts of solar is required.
Got it.
Okay, that is what it is.
Right.
So therefore, this 100 gigawatt came up as there is a demand, not only demand, that is the way to meet the lowest cost basis. So that's a realistic target to have it. It's not.
That's a desirable target to have.
It is.
But is it realistic?
Realistic target from the country's requirement point of view.
Okay.
Okay. So therefore, it is not an hypothetical number which came in from the air.
Sure.
So
okay.
that's important.
Got it.
So therefore, as long as we are able to generate that, create that much capacity, there is enough capacity to absorb because it's a least cost option.
Got it.
Now, question comes is that can we meet that 100 gigawatt target by 2030? Okay. Today we are at 47 gigawatts.
Right.
Okay. You need to do another 53 gigawatts. issue here is for the wind especially, it's not the supply.
Okay.
You need 10 gigawatts per year, country can produce 10 gigawatts per year and supply.
Okay.
Supply is not the constraint at all.
Okay.
Okay, so that's not the constraint at all. What is the constraint is converting these manufactured turbines into a project connected to the grid.
Right.
Means project execution is a challenge for us.
Okay.
So because wind project execution is completely different from solar or even thermal. Because
Okay.
those projects are done within a boundary. Whereas wind is in open area.
Sure.
Every turbine is a project for you.
Yes.
Okay, and you are doing in open area.
Ah.
So therefore, acquisition of number of footprints and maintaining that right of way all through your execution
Ah.
is what is the challenge. Okay, today there are most OEMs are not doing end-to-end EPC. Okay, they only supply the equipment. We are the only company which does EPC again end-to-end. So therefore, but we can't do the entire capacity. So there has to be other set of people who come in pitch to do the balance of plant work.
Right.
That's why the capacity building is happening today in India.
Okay.
One is there are constraints in terms of land, which is a major constraint in acquisition. It's taking longer time. Second is the capability building in the country in terms of executing that is also getting built up now. So therefore, that's the reason even after doing 5.5 gigawatts in FY17, since then we've been struggling anywhere between 1500 to 3.2 gigawatts last year we did.
Right.
Okay. Our view is that this year we would be anywhere between 5 to 5.5 gigawatts.
Okay.
That's expectation. And this should reach about 6 to 7 gigawatts in FY26.
Okay.
And then ramp up to about 8 to 9 gigawatts. We still have a view that we may not hit 100 gigawatts by 2030, but we'll still cross 90 gigawatts.
Okay.
Is what is the expectation. Because why I'm saying that is also from the sector point of view, today wind capacity addition would decide how much RE capacity addition will happen per year. I will explain to you why.
Yes, please.
Because every single project today is a combined project. Either you have a hybrid, or you have RTC, or you have FDRE bit, where you have a component of solar, component of wind, component of storage.
Okay.
Okay? In that project, if the wind doesn't get executed, whole project cannot get onto the grid.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So therefore,
Why is that the case?
because it's a project is a combined project.
Okay, fine. So you need all the three.
All the three together, because that's how it is built. Like sometime back we were talking about to avoid the intermittency, you need to have this, you have these FDRE bits. So therefore you need to have all three capacities. For example, in the FDRE bit, load pooling, what we said, if it's a 300 megawatt PPA, effectively on the back of it, what you need is 2.2 to 2.4 times the wind capacity to be created. Let's say for a 300 megawatt PPA, you need at least 700 megawatts of wind capacity to be created. Okay? And then solar and the storage. Together you can supply the 300 megawatt PPA on a 15-minute block. So therefore, today we have reached a stage where just doing solar or just doing storage is not going to help the country.
Got it.
So wind becomes important. That's what the realization has come now. So if you look at the government of India now trying to come in and help in terms of debottlenecking what's happening in terms of land. You have seen a couple of months back there is a revised micrositing guidelines came from MNRE, easing the micrositing guidelines. So all these things are happening. But still there is much more to be done in terms of the land. Simple case is that Karnataka, if you take it, that's where the 50% of capacity is getting executed today. Conversion of a land to non-agriculture. Most states, it is automatic for renewable energy. In Karnataka, it is automatic conversion into non-agriculture for solar, but not for wind.
So they need to make this.
It's a long process.
Got
So there are different states you go, you have got different hurdles. So that is what we need to debottleneck for wind to happen and for RE to happen. Most important is RE capacity addition from now onwards would depend upon how much wind you're going to do. And wind again, supply is not a constraint at all.
Got it. Okay.
Today we can supply much more than what we're supplying. But projects are not ready to offtake.
Okay, I never thought I'll tell a wind turbine manufacturer to be careful of the windmill, but as we walk ahead, just be careful there. But yeah, okay, so this is a very interesting insight, Mr. Chalasani, you're providing, that supply is not an issue. So therefore, if indeed all things fall into place, and if we reach, let's say 90 or beyond 90 gigawatts by the end of 2030, that's still a very healthy run rate for the sector, considering that the number of companies which are truly doing remarkable work of supply of wind turbines in this space is very little, right? I mean, there are hardly 2 or 3 currently, if I'm not wrong, which are doing predictable work.
True.
Okay.
True. But these companies, like, I don't want to talk about all the companies. If you look at our company,
Sure.
right today we can supply 3.5 gigawatts. If you ask me today, this year, if someone is willing to take 3.5 gigawatts, we can supply. But the question is the project to be ready to offtake.
Sure.
Okay? And the next year, this capacity would go up to 4.5 gigawatts. And we can expand the capacity if you know that there is a need for 6 to 7 gigawatts to supplied by us alone. It is 12 months time for us to ramp up.
Okay.
That's all is what is required to be ramp up, the capacity expansion to do that. So therefore, we can ramp up and do that. So supply is never going to be a constraint.
Got it.
As long as you know clearly this is the half take of turbines going to happen on a consistent basis.
Got it. So just one question, since we are on the topic actually, maybe I should have invoked this after the break, but I'm just asking you. So you are at an order book of 3.8 gigs plus a few upcoming orders is what the market rumors have. But be that as it may, without getting into that, my question is, if you're at 3.5, going up to 4.5 and the ability to expand quicker, you do this on the basis of your understanding of how quickly the execution would build up, because you've done 274, let's say, in Q1, right? You're sitting on 3.8 to be executed over 24 months, I presume, but you're still expanding capacity to 4.5, which means you expect higher order inflows in the times to come.
Definitely. Definitely.
Okay.
As I said, that if the country is going to go, let's say 5.5 gigawatts this year to 7 gigawatts next year to 8-9 gigawatts, then obviously our contribution has to be significantly higher.
Yeah, because you're 30% market share, if I'm not wrong.
30% market share again depends upon my definition of market share is different. In my company, I keep telling my colleagues is let's not get bothered into market share. If we are able to supply 90% of what we can supply, our capacity, that's the best scenario to have it. Your market share, if it is a 1000 megawatt market, market share is different. 10,000 megawatt market, your market share is different. What we need to see is, while market share is important to measure, but for us is that if I have a 4.5 gigawatts or 5 gigawatts of manufacturing supply capacity, if I have a 5 gigawatts, can I supply 4.5 gigawatt? That tells me, irrespective of what is the market. Even if the market is 7 gigawatts, can I supply 4.5 gigawatts? Okay. If the market is 10 gigawatts, can I supply 4.5 gigawatts? That's what is important for us. So we are looking from that angle, saying that, okay, if I create a capacity, so 90% of it I should be able to sell.
Okay.
Not really bothered, not get complacent with saying that I have a 30% market share.
You gave us a very interesting insight that supply is not a constraint. The constraint, if anything, is to be able to connect the eventual plant or facility to the end user or the offtake.
To the grid.
To the grid, right? Now, and you mentioned that some EPC companies are setting up that work because you can't do everything, right? Is that happening at a good enough clip to be able to execute these dreams of 9 or 10 gigs per annum starting FY27?
It should have happened much earlier.
Right.
So we wouldn't have struggled like this, what we are struggling. But currently, there are 2 or 3 things that are happening today, why we think this can happen. If you ask us, what we are also trying to do is that because this hand-to-mouth land acquisition is creating problems for execution of projects, we are saying we should have a model where we develop the land in advance.
Okay.
So that much quicker in project execution. Okay. So therefore, now what we are doing is that some states, we went ahead and said that why don't you give us rights to develop X amount of the wind capacity, let's say 2 gigawatts of wind capacity in this area, because we know the wind is available, on exclusive basis. Okay. So obviously, a couple of states agreed and few more are giving it to us, purely because, not just because it is Suzlon, it's because one is that they will convert this into projects. We are setting up a manufacturing capacities wherever these large projects are coming up. And the third is that we are the company which operates every single turbine we sell, we operate for 25 years.
Got it.
So for 25 years, there is a service business, which gives potential employment for the local people. So there are benefits for the host state. That's the reason we are trying to get this thing. And then once we get these rights, what we are now doing is that whosoever is the companies which have a long-term plan to develop, we're saying, fine, let's get into an agreement where you first give us notice to proceed for the land acquisition.
Sure.
Okay. Then give the EPC, because let's say your grid connectivity is coming 2 to 3 years later. So therefore, let's start the work today. That is one we have now started developing with 2 or 3 clients. We already signed such contracts. So that would enable that once the EPC work starts, because land is already in position, most part of it, at least 50% of the land is acquired. So therefore, you will do quickly. Same thing like NTPC. What NTPC is doing today is that they bifurcated the turbine supply versus the BOP contracts. They actually come out with a tender for the BOP contracts much in advance. They award those contracts, and start doing the land acquisition other work, then they go ahead and award the turbine contract.
Okay, okay.
So therefore, different people are working in a different way. There are some other companies who are also doing land acquisition on their own. On top of it, you have this more and more players now understanding what is BOP means. Okay, by experience, that capacity of execution of BOP is increasing. I think all these models put together is why we feel that capacity ramp up will gradually happen. Challenges will still remain.
Of course, yeah.
Challenges will still remain,
It's a
especially with
difficult
respect
sector.
to land acquisition.
Yeah.
But then with all these steps, on top of it, as I said, that because the wind becomes critical for RE capacity addition, expecting that the government intervention would be more whenever there are issues to de-bottleneck.
Got it.
I think all these things put together is what we are an optimistic view that yes, gradually the ramp up will happen for wind capacity because supply is never an issue.
I have two follow-ups here. One, therefore, you are saying that a model in which, let's say, an NTPC is doing something and you are going to states and trying to tell them that let's co-develop. So in some sense, you are also doing a mix of both BOP as well as setting up the wind turbine contracts together along with the states?
We do that.
You're doing
Not
that.
with the states.
Yeah.
States only give us the rights to develop,
Right.
but we do with IPP. We offer EPC services.
Okay, okay, okay.
We are the company which is an a la carte offer.
Sure, sure, sure. I get your point.
You can choose a full tally
Right.
where we do land to commissioning to service business. Okay, or you can just choose saying that okay, I just want the turbine supplies,
Right.
and you do the supervision, or you do turbine supply and direction and foundation. Different scopes is what people can pick up. But one thing is mandatory is that every single turbine we sell, mandatorily, irrespective of what the scope of the project, they should sign with us the OMS service contract. If the client is not willing to give us the service contract, we don't sell the turbine.
Okay, fine.
So therefore, for us, the service business is very, very important because turbines I'm selling one time.
Right.
But then we need to follow it up with 25 years revenue for service business.
So this entire 3.8 gigawatt order book that you have or the future orders that come in will all be accompanied by a 25-year service contract.
Otherwise, we don't supply.
Otherwise, you don't supply. Okay. The second part of my question.
Every single turbine which is sold today in the country is being operated by us.
Lovely. The second question is, you mentioned that you've kind of spoken to 2-3 states, maybe more will come in. Each of these could be to the tune of 2 gigawatts and maybe will come in maybe FY 25, 26, 27. But you are effectively telling me that there are, let's say 3 or 4 states, each of which might actually give you 2 gigawatts of orders, all of which might come in the next 2 or 3 years.
They will not give an order. Order is nothing to do. They only give us, because the land belongs there,
Yeah.
so they give us a project development permissions
Which is fine.
on exclusive basis.
Which effectively will involve you supplying 2 gigawatts of turbines to whoever the IPP is.
Yeah.
Perfect. And all of that comes in the next 2-3 years, hopefully. Yeah. Okay.
It's a constant process.
It's a constant process. Okay. What about the possibility of India becoming an export hub for this? I mean, yeah, but in a bigger way. The reason I'm asking is, sorry if I'm mistaking this, but in some sense, sectors which have come out of the doldrums, if I can use that term, excuse me, but railways, wind power supply, I mean, your business as well had a brief period of a very weak operating area, right, if you will. Does that pick up pace?
It will. In fact, in my view, that India can become a great hub for wind turbine exports.
Okay.
Today, a lot of European players are doing that. They're taking it, they have a manufacturing base here, they're exporting it. But we can actually make India as a great hub for manufacturing for the wind turbines. Little more push is required from the point of view of supporting the MSMEs who get into this like component suppliers. Little more support for them to expand their capacity. Okay, what needs to be done for them to expand the capacity and things like that. With a few interventions, we can actually become a great hub for this. I was in Australia a few weeks back, India, Australia, and the discussions on that. They want to become a hydrogen hub. Anybody wants to become a hydrogen hub, the fundamental requirement is the cost of renewable energy has to be cheap.
Right.
Because 70% of the cost of hydrogen is the renewable energy cost. Okay? And today we have one of the lowest renewable energy cost in the world.
Right.
So therefore, in fact, we have the highest possibility of becoming a hydrogen hub from that point of it. So I was telling Australia, if you want to become, the only option you have is you need to import equipment from India. You can't expect saying that, okay, I will develop a hydrogen hub, but I want manufacturing in Australia. Both mismatches. So they understand that. So therefore, we worked earlier in Australia. They're again saying that we need to come back to Australia to do that. So therefore, the potential to supply equipment is huge. In fact, today, there are different countries from where, because we worked everywhere, there are world clients of ours. Everybody says that when is Suzlon coming back into international arena for supply of equipment. Wow. So therefore, I think that's one area. First of all, we need to remove this misconception that supply is a constraint in India. Okay, this is completely a misnorm, completely a misnorm, because today capacity is underutilized. Okay, our capacity is utilized to the extent of 25-30%. Capacity is underutilized. There is enough capacity for this, and if you have a little more support system, it can become an export hub.
What is the main support system that you reckon needs from the authorities?
Yeah.
Or the policy support?
Yeah, policy support is one is to the small sector industry, because let's say MSMEs would support our these things. For them to expand, so okay, we have a manufacturing capacity. Along with that, we also need to have our component suppliers to expand that capacity.
Got it.
So if they can do, let's for example take today the gearboxes, ZF and people like that, they're installed here. Most of it they're exporting, component supplies from India to outside. So 70-80% of its capacity goes outside. They're doing people today.
Right, sir.
So what's needed to them, or second thing is that if companies like us to export, what benefits do you give in terms of lower cost of working capital? What other export benefits? You don't need a huge amount of support, but some specific export-oriented support if is given, India can meet our own demand. Okay? Because we're not thinking in the direction, because we're thinking that we don't have a capacity.
Got it.
That's a misnorm.
Okay.
So we have a capacity. In fact, we can actually meet our capacity as well as export.
Got it.
As India. I'm not talking about Suzlon.
Yeah, of course. Okay, got it. Now, I want to talk about Suzlon a bit. What is Suzlon currently? I don't want to get into guidance, but where is or what is a Suzlon that you envisage, let's say, in the next 5 years or the end of the decade? How would Suzlon look like? Yeah.
See
Operations, areas of work, geographies of work.
Yeah. See, we have a simple philosophy right now when working on this. FY17 we did very well, but then came the competitive bidding, and sector itself went down, so we got into problems. We had two fundamental issues which were actually making us to go up and down. If you look at the Sri Lanka curve, we always went up, came down, came down. One was our cost, and the second one was our debt. These were the two things. We had a cost structure at that point of time in FY17, which was like unless we do 1400 to 1500 megawatt, it was not giving us a break even.
Got it.
In a year, okay, which is very high. Well, country did in FY18 1500 gigawatts, so 1500 megawatts. So how do we get that sort of share? So we said that unless we attack these 2 points, you can't have a sustainable growth. Okay, so the journey took us so long. Cost cutting we did, cost control we did in FY19, FY20 itself. We brought down our cost from 1400 megawatts to 600 megawatts break even. Okay? By reducing the cost, by changing the cost structure to fixed and variable. So today we are if you do 600 megawatt, we can recover our cost for the WTG business and turbine business. That was a journey which everybody knows. We worked with restructuring, then the refinancing, then we raised to rates and QAP. We became a debt-free first time in the history. So two fundamental issues which were hurting us are now out of the window. So therefore, we can continue to look at future growth. But then we decided if it is a future growth, how do we make it a sustainable growth? So we have a business of, we have a business of turbine and we have a business of services. Okay? We wanted to deal with them two separately. In the wind business, we are growing significantly. So if we are growing significantly is to safeguard that, every turbine we sell, we get operations services as well as, it gets us a profitability. Building that organization becomes important for us. So we said, let us restructure ourselves because we're doing a lot of activities. So we said that, okay, we will break this into India business and we break this into manufacturing business. So get two separate CEOs for that. We build that, they're independent, they keep doing their own. Manufacturing CEO doesn't look at anything else. His only thing is cost of production and then ensuring that the turbine is available whenever there's a demand. Okay? And the India business does the sales, projects and everything, it ensures that. So, and the quality of the sales, what we do. It's not just the number. This 3.8, we can make it 7 gigawatts in no time. In no time. I'm not boasting, but take from me. But then you need to have quality contracts. Okay? Where you know certainty of that contract, this contract would happen and it also gives us good margins. So therefore, we started doing that. So therefore, the entire set of contracts, what we have are the contracts which are executionable. So that's how we are insulating the turbine business, saying that, okay, even if it is cyclical, let's say tomorrow it drops down, but my cost is only 600 megawatts. I need to do to break even. We're insulated from the market today, that way. So we continue to grow. And once we see what happens in India, because we don't need to look outside, then let's see that if there is any risk happening here, do you need to expand outside, do what it is let's look at it little later. But that capacity we have it. If you want to expand, because we're done earlier, we can actually de-risk ourselves from India and go and do outside.
Right.
But that is not on the radar at this stage because there's so much here. But the most important aspect for is the service business, which is an annuity business. Today we have this 1500 megawatts operating and which is operating at 40% plus EBITDA margin, let's say. But that service business has been growing purely based on our turbine sales. More turbines we sell, more capacity addition happening to them, the growth is happening.
Right.
So we said no, it can't be that way. While we continue to grow based on our own thing, service business has to grow on its own, not just piggyback and Suzlon wind turbine business growth. That's where we looked at and acquired the Renom multi-brand OMS. Because there if you look at it, today 47 gigawatts, we only operate 15 gigawatts. There is 32 gigawatts sitting out there, which is operated by anybody else, someone else. They are not our turbines, but also not operated by us. And from here to journey 57 gigawatt, even if you assume 50 gigawatts gets added further, even if you do 20 gigawatts, there is going to be 30 gigawatts additional being added by someone else. There are a lot of OEMs today not showing significant interest in terms of service business. 32 existing plus 30 future, 60 gigawatts is what is the market size for us. Okay? But that business is different from our business because we understand our turbine, the type of products what we offer is different. That has to be completely different. So therefore we thought that let's have a vehicle which is already experienced in this, and which has a different structure, and take that, and that platform is what you grow. So the Renom is the largest ISP today in the country. Okay, they have 2.5 gigawatts, out of which about 2.5 megawatts, 2.5 gigawatts, and then 800 megawatts is the wind. Okay, and we also have 2 to 300 megawatts of our thing. Together we have 2 gigawatts of other suppliers of this. Not only that, they have 37 different models they're operating, 14 different OEMs they're operating. So they have a significant experience. So now what we are trying to do is service business will grow not just depending upon Suzlon growth, Suzlon wind turbine business growth, it will grow on its own. And what it does is that service business is annuity business. It is not cyclical. Once I enter into 25-year service contract, it's annuity. Okay? So that provides us an immunity from cyclical business called wind turbines.
Sure.
Okay? So therefore, that's the step number 2. While we are trying to do whatever is feasible within the wind turbine business to be not get impacted by reducing our cost to 600 megawatt break even. Second one is the service business is what we are trying to do. We are running it independently. So okay, these 2 engines will grow separately. The third one what we have is the SE Forge, which is our subsidiary, which does the forging and foundry, which was till now predominantly getting depending upon the wind sector, both Suzlon and the other OEMs in India. So we said no, you can't just grow based on Suzlon or the wind. You need to do something different. So there our idea now we are working on is that go away from the wind, while continue to do wind, but expand into non-wind. And more importantly, there's a huge amount of export market today for the product of SE Forge. Because now everywhere China plus one. You want to get into Europe and everywhere. So the exports is what we should increase. That's the strategy what we are working. There you will see actually the next couple of years, that company turning around, not again depending upon what happens in the Indian wind sector. The whole journey what we are trying to do now is, let's insulate the business from these things. We can't have what we had earlier. While we fixed our foundations in terms of cost and the debt, that gives us a bigger stability. But business-wise also we need to have a stability. Don't depend upon one single type of source of business. I think that's the way we're working. And most important of all this is that you can only deliver as strong as your organization is.
Sure.
Okay? Building that organization. Getting right kind of people. That's what you're seeing. A lot of senior people joining us. And at the same time, growth of the people. Because today everybody wants to take away your people because we are the largest wind company today. How do you attract and retain your talent? What sort of things you have in-house? So huge amount of HR interventions what we are trying to do. And the other element which I always is equally important in HR is that diversity is very important to us. We are very low at that number, consciously working on diversity. And third is ESG. Because if you don't consider on ESG, I'm very, very clear, a few years down the line, if you're not strong in ESG, you're not rated well in ESG, you can't get contract from many of the IPPs. So therefore, no point in waking up at that point of time.
Sure.
So therefore, while we are a clean energy company, we're working strongly on ESG. I think there are different pieces, but ultimately, one single goal, saying that we got to be sustainable, we cannot get impacted frequently by small change here and there. Fine, it can be small up and down, that's okay. But you can't be completely up and down.
Sure.
You know, like you're there today, that tomorrow you're completely struggling to do. No. And that's a business strategy model what we're working on.
So
it's work in progress,
Huh.
but we're there 70, 80%. So
But there's a, fine, there's always a tail risk of the model being up and down by virtue of what happened in the past. But realistically, with all the additions that have to be done, do you sense that there could be a down cycle in the next 3, 4, 5 years?
I don't see. See,
don't
with the demand, what is happening till 20, see, there are two things happening. As I said sometime back, this sector has become self-sufficient in terms of the cost per kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
So therefore all this. And second, even if you look at India itself, there is going to be demand for power.
Exactly.
Okay, because the GDP and electricity relationship is, velocity is almost like 0.97, 0.98. If you think the GDP is going to grow, power sector has to grow.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a question of, are you doing 10 gigawatts in a year, or are you doing 6 gigawatts in a year? That's why I say that our aim is not 10 or 6. So if I have a 5 gigawatt capacity, boss, can I go and sell 4.5 gigawatts every year?
Yeah.
That's a target to do that. So we don't see that. And the second also is that globally, that commitment towards the climate change is much higher today. Much higher today.
Sure.
It's no more a talk. Okay? And also if you look at, in fact, we're talking about 3.8 gigawatts of order. Out of the 2/3 is comes from us for the industry, not from the utility PPA, IPPs. Okay? That's because most utilities, or most industries are now switching their fossil fuel capacity, captive capacity, or the new captive capacity through renewables.
Sure.
The reason is that tariff arbitrage compared to fossil, and the second is that they got to be green to sell their product outside of India, and the third is if you want to attract investments into your company, you got to be green. So that's growing. So therefore, and there is our advantage, because for them the reliability of power supply is most important, because for their end product is something different.
Got it.
Okay, so there they believe that this is the company where the product is strong, and they are in India. They provide me 25 years operation business, and that's the reason 2/3 of our order book is that, and that will continue to grow,
Sure.
irrespective of what happens to the DTPPS. And once this reaches certain level and starts plateauing down, is what will get green nitrogen, 2 to 3 years. Green nitrogen is nothing but renewable energy. So therefore, looking at these things, you can't have that everything is going to fail.
Yeah.
Climate change, suddenly everybody says no climate change.
Won't happen.
Won't happen. And our demand is not going to come down. The demand is there as long as, because we are the lowest cost generation in terms of meeting the demand. So renewable energy will happen. If renewable energy is happening, wind will happen, has to happen, as we discussed some time back. And the industrial sector will continue to grow, and off-grid business will continue to grow. So therefore, if you ask me, in my 45-year journey in the power sector, I have not been more optimistic today than what in the entire my career. Always there has to be a set of, there are a set of challenges even today.
Of course.
Challenges in the execution, but looking ahead with respect to what it provides you in terms of business opportunities, it's the most opportunistic time.
So you don't give guidance. I wouldn't urge you to give me a guidance about specific numbers, but I'm just saying that from where Suzlon is right now, and because you're doing a composite number, so I'm not going to ask you whether you will sell more turbines, but will the service happen or not. All of that will go together. But from where you are right now, looking at all of this, okay, the backdrop to my question is, a lot of people look at what's happened to a sector's fortunes in the last 2-3 years and say कि अभी तो बहुत हो गया, अरे इतना चल गया, अभी और क्या होगा? मतलब in terms of the business. Is there a possibility the business as it is right now, from where it is right now, can be between 3 to 5x times in the next 5 years?
I will not say 3 to 5x, but I will tell you why it will grow.
Okay.
I won't put a number to it. Okay?
Yeah, I'm asking for a range. I'm
Yeah.
not really asking for a specific
No,
number.
no. There are two aspects which we think the growth will happen for us in terms of even numbers, efficiency of the numbers wise. One is the sectoral tailwinds which we talked anyway. I don't think anybody can deny that.
Right.
Second thing is how much of this is what we can take and then efficiently convert that into numbers for us. Okay. With our internal structure, what we've done in terms of our low cost and the debt free becoming on this, that would give us its own efficiencies. Because till now, if you look at it, let's say our vendors, okay, because we had a problem of money not being there, not able to lift in time. So they used to demand saying that you need to pay me in advance or give me LC, and there is a different type of pricing. Today, if we are sitting with vendors saying that I can give you next 3 years look ahead time.
Yeah,
okay?
of course.
And this is what is my balance sheet is. So you got a different pricing. Okay? And also what happens is that as I said, in the wind turbine business specifically, our break even is 600. So everything what you sell thereafter, straight flows to the EBITDA. Okay? Because I record my cost.
Yeah, sure.
So therefore, when people talk about EBITDA margin, depends upon how much we do. So 600 is done, there is EBITDA
But you're
neutral.
obviously going to do more.
Yeah.
So therefore, the EBITDA flow at least will be...
will increase substantially.
Right.
So therefore, from external point of view and internal point of view, clear indicators that will continue to grow. Continue to grow at significant level.
Got it.
You don't want to put 3x, 4x, 5x.
Okay.
Okay. But what is most important aspect I said that which is what generally we miss out is opportunity is there, company is ready. To take this opportunity and convert it, you need to have a strong team, which is very, very important.
Yeah,
which is what we've been working on. Team
spend so much time.
Yeah.
on
So therefore,
speaking
that is important. That's what many people miss out on.
Okay, so last question, and maybe I understood it wrongly, but I thought when I read some of the con call transcripts that you are saying that the sector will grow, you are at circa 30% market share, maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, and you will want to maintain 30%. Is that, and did I hear or read it wrongly?
30% is one. Our target is that if you have an X manufacturing capacity,
You should be able to exert 90%. You told me that.
is the second target.
I get your point. But so
But for me, the second target is much more important than maintaining 30%.
okay.
30% will automatically
The
happen.
sad part is, Mr. Chalasani, when I ask you about what your capacity will be 3 years out, you tell me I don't want to say it right now.
No, I'm saying my capacity today is 3.5.
Right.
Okay. It will expand to 4.5 to 6 in 1 year's time.
In 1 year's time.
Okay. And then as we see that if it's going to get ramped up, let's say 10 gigawatts in a year, because that's what we need to watch. As I told you that we will ramp up our capacity further because we just need 12 months notice.
But so you will move up to, is there an internal target about what you will go up to in capacities? No.
It's not, see, let's understand the wind turbine business wise. It is not the capacity, it is a model. Your new model, what is important? Okay? New turbine coming in. If you want, when you talk about 3 years, 4 years down the line, to meet the demand, it's not my manufacturing capacity.
Yeah.
Its most important weightage is that do I have the right kind of turbine to meet the demand?
Sure. Because that is changing.
That is changing.
Sure.
So if you don't have a turbine, what is the use of your manufacturing capacity? You will have capacity, but you will not use it. So we are working on that. We are confident that turbine, we will continue to work. We will get the right kind of turbine even for the future at the right point of time, like we brought 3 megawatts, is one which we are confident about.
Sure.
And on the capacity expansion, is simply like every new model, anyway, you have to put a new blade molds. And in the same factory, you need to just put some more streams, expansion of this. So therefore, we will keep expanding it.
Yeah.
So even this year, we have about 400 to 500 crores of capex expansion. We expect that to do next year. All we can do with our internal accruals, we will keep expanding, but we will keep watching the market, what's happening.
Sure. Makes sense.
Okay. Then we don't know what happens in future. Just if it is after we really do very well in India, then if you want to look outside, then the capacity is available.
Cross fingers for that.
Yeah.
But I must say, you're making India and the world a cleaner and a greener place. So all the best with that.
Thank you.
And lovely campus. Thank you for having us here, Mr. Chalasani.
Thank you.
Lovely
Thanks for
talking
coming.
to you. No, the
Thanks for
pleasure was
coming. Yeah.
entirely
Thank
ours. And viewers, thanks for tuning into yet another episode of Know Your Company.